What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be taking a look at our Week 5 fantasy football running back starts and sits for every single matchup, so make sure to tune in. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We'll do our best to answer them all, but with that being said, let's get right into it. Before getting into our breakdown, I want to highlight the sponsor of today's video, OddsJam. OddsJam continues to be the place that I use for all of my sports betting research, from the NFL, NBA, MLB, to daily fantasy and everything in between. But don't just take my word for it. Let me show you firsthand all the amazing tools OddsJam has to offer. Starting with their positive EV tool, which identifies situations where a single sportsbook has mispriced their line compared to the rest of the market. They're basically willing to pay a lot more so that you bet with them compared to the other sportsbook. At the end of the day, you're getting the best odds, essentially a mathematical edge and guaranteed money in the long run. But also available is OddsJam's arbitrage tool, which shows situations where the market is so mispriced that you can bet on both sides and guarantee a risk-free return. OddsJam's calculators show you exactly how much you have to bet on the over and under and what the respective guaranteed risk-free return would be. There's also OddsJam's Sportsbook tool, which consolidates all available market info, over 200 sportsbooks, and provides updates in real time and allows you to see line movement. But my personal favorite is their Fantasy Optimizer tool, which is great for those using PrizePicks, Underdogs, or other daily fantasy sites, as you get to see discrepancies between all of these sportsbooks. Imagine, PrizePicks has a Patrick Mahomes line at 200.5 passing yards, and all other books like FanDuel and Underdog have this line at 230 passing yards. Well, getting the over 200.5 on PrizePicks would be an absolute steal. Guess what? OddsJam does that for you. And the good news is, if you sign up today and use our code PIGSKIN, check the link and promo code in the description of this video, you will get 25% off your first month. OddsJam also has a 7-day free trial, so you get to try before you buy. So don't waste any more time and sign up for OddsJam using our code PIGSKIN today. We kick off Week 5 on Thursday with the Bears at the Commanders. Not going to lie to you guys, tough one to get excited about. Yes, I know the Bears are coming off their highest scoring game of the season, but it was versus one of the worst teams in football in the Denver Broncos. So, for that reason, I have a hard time seeing Khalil Herbert duplicating the effort that he had in Week 4. I currently have him as a sit. I think the Commanders are going to present a tougher challenge up front, and I think the Bears are going to look more like the offense that we have seen the first 3 weeks of the season as opposed to in Week 4. So for that reason, I'd rather be a little bit more cautious. I think what we saw from Khalil Herbert, over 100 yards rushing, is going to be something that happens only once every blue moon type of situation. And then Roschon Johnson, just clearly the backup, more so a handcuff piece. So both those guys are sits. Now let's talk about the start. One singular start, that is Brian Robinson for Washington. The Bears defense, if you thought the Broncos was bad, Bears is even worse. I think that Robinson is going to have a bounce back performance, considering that he played the Eagles last week. Now versus this Bears defense, going to be a much different story. I think he is going to be a top 15 running back on the week, and I think he's going to see a lot of usage. I really like the matchup for him. I'm starting him. Then I'm sitting Antonio Gibson just because he is not getting enough volume. Moving on, Jaguars at the Bills. Pretty simple here. Travis Etienne and James Cook, both starters in my eyes. I think that the game script is going to be a better one for James Cook. If I had to, kind of break it down honestly, I could see that the Jaguars being, behind in this game, having to throw the ball a little bit more. That's why I think that James Cook is going to have more opportunities here. I think he has the higher upside. I think at the end of the day, both these guys are kind of going to be in the mid to high end running back 2 conversation, potentially catapulted up with some touchdown success. But you could do a lot worse compared to these 2 guys when you're looking at running back starters this week. Then Saints at the Patriots. Only one name that I want to start here, Alvin Kamara. Now, a quick disclaimer. What he did last week in his first game this season post-suspension was insane. Now, primarily in PPR formats because, what was it? Catching double-digit passes. That's 10-plus points right there. And in standard formats, it probably wasn't as pretty. So I will say Kamara is definitely a PPR-suited running back. That's always been the case, but especially if, he's only rushing it for like 50 yards, something like that, and the Saints are a little bit hampered offensively with Derek Carr not 100%. Also, the Patriots defense, I think, can do an okay job of stopping them. But look, either way, I think Alvin Kamara is going to be a mid to high-end running back, too, primarily in PPR formats. Again, just don't come expecting the same pass-catching success that he had the week prior. Then for the Patriots, Saints, stingy defense. The Patriots can't figure out the Ramondre Stevenson, Ezekiel Elliott split. They can't figure out their offense. All those things are hurting these running backs. For that reason, they are both sits to me. Moving on, Titans at the Colts. So Derrick Henry finally had that breakout game last week. Good to see. I'll roll with him again here versus the Colts. The Colts don't scare me defensively. And for Indianapolis, big week here because Jonathan Taylor eligible to return. We'll see if he does. If he is available, you start him. He returns as soon as he touches the field, in my opinion. A borderline top 5 running back, definitely top 10. And if he isn't available, then you go with Zach Moss, who has been filling in admirably for him. And, I think he will do an all right job, but definitely doesn't have as high upside as that of a Jonathan Taylor. Afterwards, Ravens at the Steelers. I'm really only interested in Gus Edwards here. And honestly, if there weren't, several teams on buys this week, I would probably say sit Gus Edwards. This is a divisional game. These two teams know each other very well. They know what they do well, what they do poorly. And I could see the entire Ravens rushing attack getting, kind of slowed down. But if there's one guy I would prefer, it would be Gus Edwards. On the flip side for the Steelers, it's tough sledding for them right now. They are banged up at quarterback. We don't know if Kenny Pickett is going to miss time or not. We know that the rushers can't really get it going. This Ravens defense, I think, can do a good job of stopping them as well. So honestly, I have Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren currently as sits. And then Justice Hill being the primary backup for Gus Edwards to me is a sit on top of that too. Then Panthers at the Lions. I'm only looking at the Lions rushers here. The Panthers defense is not good against the run, especially as the game continues. And I think Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are fantasy viable this week. Definitely Montgomery more so than Gibbs just because of his usage, in rushing attempts, in the red zone, etc. But I think Gibbs will have success here as well. For the Panthers, Miles Sanders, I have him as a sit. I could see this game being one where the Panthers have to throw a bunch to keep pace with the Lions. And I've said it before, I think with Bryce Young under center, Miles Sanders isn't as potent as maybe if it were Andy Dalton. So for that reason, I think he is better off as a sit. Moving on, Texans at the Falcons. I'm really only interested in Bijan Robinson. He's been great as advertised, and I think he's only going to get better as the season progresses. So, yes, top 10 running back. For the Texans, I'm sitting Dameon Pierce. I'm sitting Devin Singletary. I know Dameon Pierce had a solid outing, but, I think here the Texans, they continue to be a more pass-heavy team. They're not emphasizing the run, and, I think the Falcons can kind of make this game dirty in the trenches. We'll see. So I'm not all that high on Dameon Pierce and or Devin Singletary. And then Tyler Algier, I said this, for a while now. It's a situation where Brian Robinson is taking over, and the fantasy relevant window for Algier is close to being shut. Then Giants at the Dolphins. Raheem Mostert and Devon A-Chain are starts for me. Now, note, Mostert didn't do anything all that special this last week in terms of you look at the splits between the two Miami running backs, but let's not forget that was a game versus the Bills where the Dolphins were playing from behind pretty much the entire game, so they didn't have to run the ball all that much. They really couldn't. I think this is going to be a much different situation. I think you're going to see big Mostert games, big A-Chain games. I think both are solid starts. I would prefer Mostert because I think he's going to see more work, but that is still up in the air. Then for the Giants, if he plays, you start Saquon Barkley. That's still kind of up in the air. If I had to guess, I think he will return this week, but we'll see. And if he doesn't, Matt Breida, I would still have as a sit. I think that the Giants are just going to get boat raced here. I think they're going to be playing from behind, and Breida isn't going to see high usage as a pure rusher. So for that reason, he is a sit for me. Then Bengals at the Cardinals. Simple one here. You start Joe Mixon, you start James Conner. Again, could be a lot worse. I think both these guys can be top 15 running backs on the week. Moving on, Eagles at the Rams. Another game that I actually like the running backs here. DeAndre Swift and Kyren Williams. Swift has emerged as the top running back for the Eagles, if you kind of track it back a couple weeks now. And then for the Rams, Kyren Williams has been killing it. Great week last week. It's going to be tougher sledding, let's be honest, versus the Eagles, but the upside is definitely there. So I think you have to continue to roll him out. Again, a bunch of guys that I like here, high upside running back twos, and then Kenneth Gainwell is a sit for me. You know, he's kind of just the backup to DeAndre Swift. If Swift gets hurt, sure, Gainwell is going to see high usage, but until then, he is a sit. Afterwards, Jets at the Broncos. This is a tough one for me. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm saying Breece Hall is a start, but the only reason I'm saying that is because it's going up versus literally probably one of the worst defenses, worst teams in the NFL in the Denver Broncos. So I think Breece Hall can, luck into some success here. I still think he's going to be a boom or bust low-end running back too. So keep that in mind if you're looking for high upside. And then I'm definitely sitting Dalvin Cook. He's just, a filler, and this Jets offense is not fantasy friendly for more than one running back. You could argue it's not even fantasy friendly for one running back. Then for the Broncos, Javonte Williams banged up. Jaleel McLaughlin is going to be a popular waiver wire pickup, but versus this Jets defense, I have a tough time trusting him. They're not playing the Bears here. Keep that in mind. And then Samaje Perine, similar situation. This offense for the Broncos just has been struggling, and I think that'll continue here versus the Jets. Then Chiefs at the Vikings. I'll start Pacheco for the Kansas City Chiefs. I will start Alexander Mattison. He's had a couple of good weeks in a row, Madison. I will say I could see him here struggling a little bit, especially if the Chiefs go up big early and the Vikings have to abandon the run. Now, I do have Cam Akers as a sit. I think Madison is the top guy for Minnesota. So, Akers right now is a non-factor, more so a handcuff. I like the upside here for Pacheco more than I do of Madison, but either way, I think, again, considering all the teams that are on bye weeks, we've seen some more usage from Madison in what we were hoping for these last 2 weeks. You can fire him up as probably a low-end running back too, that he's going to need a touchdown in order to, salvage his day. Then Cowboys at the 49ers. This one is extremely easy. Tony Pollard, Christian McCaffrey, no-brainers. McCaffrey, the number one running back. I mean, are you kidding me? Pollard, I think, can have a bounce-back performance, if you will, but either way, to me, is a top 10 running back as well. This one is extremely easy, extremely friendly for the fantasy running backs involved. Then Packers at the Raiders. I'll start Aaron Jones. Yes, I know he had a poor performance this last week, but, let's keep in mind, first game back from injury. And then now, however, he's going to be facing the Raiders, who don't scare me all that much. And I think that the Packers can have big involvement from Aaron Jones in this matchup. So I think he bounces back to a top 20 running back in PPR, higher upside. And then Josh Jacobs finally kind of broke out the season last week. I think he can continue that success. The Packers, again, don't really scare me. And then A.J. Dillon is a sit. I just, with Aaron Jones available, A.J. Dillon isn't all that enticing. But with that, we wrap up our Week 5 fantasy football running back starts and sits for every single matchup. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We'll do our best to answer them all. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.